As you know, we're in the process of appointing a new pastor. In order to vote in that process for the new pastor, you need to be a member at Westlake. So if you've not filled in a specific form and you would like to be a member here at Westlake, please contact Claire at contactus@westlakechurch.com, or you can also contact Claire at westlakechurch.com. This is a very important slide. I think it's important to communicate to our congregation where we are in this whole process of looking for a new pastor for Westlake. You know by now that we are looking at Tommy Bresson, our youth leader here at Westlake, as a candidate for the next pastor of Westlake. The first interview already took place on August 22nd. It was about theology, vision, and call. September 11th, we will have the second interview. Then the third on September 17th, and the vote will take place October 1st here in the sanctuary, 7:30 in the evening. Now, what have we done in between all those big events, or the big things? I call them the big four. On August 16th, we have sent out a 31-day prayer guide to all of you. And I trust and hope that you are following the prayer guide, because you must be finishing up around the 16th or 17th of September. We've already done 2 truths and a lie with Tommy the last 2 Sundays. And today we will have a coffee and chat time with Tommy, and that will be an overview of that first interview that we've had with Tommy. Next up will be Q&A with the elders. September 15, it will be here in the sanctuary, and I know it's the same evening as we will have the mocktails, but please get your mocktail and come back up here if you've got any questions for the elders. We will handle it that specific evening. And so it will continue with another coffee and chat September 22nd, worship night, I've already talked about that, September 23rd, another coffee and chat to just do an overview of that last interview about pastoral care. And then we are at the vote. And I know it's a lot, but that's what we are doing behind the scenes to make sure that we are doing our due diligence as elders. And Clara said this before, if at any point in time, us or Tommy feels that this is not the right thing, it's not the right fit, there's no peace, we will stop the process from either side. We will not continue, and we want to make that very clear. Tommy and Megan can stop the process, or as elders we can say, let's wait, let's think and pray again. Just that you know, that's where we are. Now I'm going to invite Tommy to come up here to have a coffee and chat with me, as we are going to do an overview of that first interview, Tommy. So as you know, that was good. As you know, Tommy is our youth leader here at Westlake, and he's also the individual that we are looking at as the next pastor of Westlake, a candidate, as you call it. And people have asked us as elders questions as well. And we've decided to cover those questions in our interviews, but also here this afternoon as we are going to talk to Tommy. So, Tommy, several people have asked us, what is Tommy's vision for Westlake? And that was the key question we asked in that first interview. And I know I was quite excited about your answer. So, do you want to unpack that for us this afternoon? What's your vision for Westlake, Tommy?
Yeah, I would love to answer that and unpack that a little bit in a short amount of time. But yeah, I think talking about vision can also be a difficult thing, kind of in a situation like this, because if I say I have a different vision than the church has had previously, I don't want that to be construed as I didn't agree with the previous vision, or I want to go in a completely different direction. And that's not the case. I think very much my vision is in alignment with where we have been and where we are headed. But I think it's also okay to acknowledge that I am different. I have different gifts and personality than previous leadership, and that might take us in a slightly different direction. And so, yeah, when I think about the role of a pastor, I love the image of a shepherd and a pastor being someone who is shepherding individuals to be all that they were created to be in Jesus Christ. And that is the goal, and that is the desire, to shepherd people to become the people that Christ has created them to be. And that can look differently and come about in different ways. But I think one of the things that's also kind of tough with that is that's not easy to measure. And that doesn't directly translate to, people that are sitting in chairs. But it's measured by growth. It's measured by our people growing in their knowledge, in their depth, and understanding and love for who God is. And so that is the goal, that is the vision of what we are doing, what we are leading, what we are drawing people into. And when I was thinking about Westlake specifically, I was thinking back to when my family lived in the state of New Hampshire in the United States, which is in New England and right along the coast. And it's a really rocky coast. We have a couple of beaches, but they're not really sandy. And so our area there had a lot of lighthouses. And I've really enjoyed the image and thinking back to visiting the lighthouses that I would go to frequently living in New Hampshire. And I think a lighthouse has multiple purposes, but two that I think are applicable as we sit here. And one is they provide a safe harbor, right? A lighthouse lets you know where you can go in and kind of find that rest and find that safety from the storm, from the sea. And I think that is a good vision of what Westlake Church is, because Westlake is a church of expats coming through the revolving door of the Geneva area. And we all know that there are people that are coming here for 2 months, 3 months, 6 years, and beyond. But Westlake Church should be a safe harbor for people who are coming through our area. And so I think it is a place that people are coming to that are already Christians. And during their time here at Westlake, whether it's, again, 3 months, 6 months, 10 years, we as a church build them up, equip them, encourage them, and help them grow so that when they go back onto the seas and go into the next harbor that God calls them to, they have grown in their time here with us, and that they have been able to feel equipped and prepared to go on and use what they've learned here in that next chapter. But I also think a lighthouse has the job of shining a light in the darkness and letting people know where the danger is and where the safety is as well. And I hope and pray that Westlake Church is shining a light in the darkness in our area, that we are active in our community and have this presence in our community, that people know who we are as a church. They know what we stand for, and we are shining a light in the darkness and meeting the needs of the people that are in our community as well. And I think in order for us to do that, we need to go to where the people are. I think sometimes it can be common to have the mindset of, well, let's just see what this school year brings in. Let's see who moves into the area. But I think we also need to have the mentality of going into the area that is already here and going and finding those people. Depending on which version you have, Matthew 28, the Great Commission, it's either the first or the second word, right? It either says, go therefore, or therefore go. But I think sometimes we forget that it says go. And we are to go. We are to be that light shining in the darkness, going to where those needs are. And so I hope and pray that as a church, we have a pulse on our community in this area, and we can go to where those needs are and meet them where they are and draw them into the church.
So off of that, Tommy, what would you say are the needs we could or should be thinking about here at Westlake?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of needs in our area, and I hope and pray that we are people who are listening with our heads and with our hearts to what the needs are for our neighbors and for our coworkers. And I think that those needs are changing as well. Again, with the revolving door, things are not static in Geneva, right? And so we need to be willing and able to again, have that pulse on what the needs are, so that we can continually try to meet those needs. But I think, as everybody knows, I'm passionate about students and families, and that's not going to change. And thinking about families as well, I think one thing that is really interesting, a statistic that we have heard from 2006, so I'm not sure how accurate it is, but they say for the expat, 61% of the time, that somebody comes, an expat comes to a job and ends up leaving, 61% of the time they leave, and it has zero to do with the job itself, but it has everything to do with somebody in the family did not transition well. Whether that's the person with the job, the spouse, or a kid. And so what are we doing to reach all of those people that are coming here and finding those difficulties? I think specifically, one of the things that we have seen is marriages are tough in this area and struggling. The number of families that we have walked alongside with marriages that are struggling is really difficult. And even hearing about GEMS, I've had the blessing to be, I would say, loosely a part of GEMS, partially because Megan has been going, but also Karen has granted me the opportunity to speak at GEMS a couple of times. And when I'm there, and even thinking about it, like my heart breaks because she talks about having, anywhere from 25 to 45 women that are coming. And I think about almost every single one of those women that is coming, there's a husband or a partner that we haven't reached, that's not coming. And so what are we doing to meet the needs of the dads and the husbands in our area? What are we doing to reach them? And so those are some of the things, but I also think too, as a body of Christ, again, if we are working together, you guys are going to come up and see needs and say, hey, these are needs that we also need to address. These are things that we're passionate about, that we see because, again, we're having these conversations with our family members, with our coworkers, and some of those needs as well.
Tommy, I have to ask one last question to you, and I know several people came up and asked us that question as well. And I just can say, during that first interview, as elders, we were really so excited to hear Tommy's vision and how he will approach situations within our community. We all got our pens out and started writing vigorously. But the last question, can you maybe tell us, Tommy, about that specific moment in time where you experienced the Lord calling you into pastoral ministry?
Yeah, I think it's like I have a vision of myself being at the boarding school that I was at in Germany, and that was not just the place of an epic food fight that I talked about, but it was about so much more than that, because I remember being in the room that was my room there, and as I said in a letter I typed up a little while ago, I could hear 15, 16, 17-year-old guys in their room. I could hear them laughing, I could hear them snoring, but I could hear them crying. And the physical proximity that I had to them was so cool, but it was also the emotional and the spiritual proximity as well. And in those moments and in that time, God called me and equipped me to walk alongside people, to navigate life with people, to go on the journey with people wherever it is taking them. And so I think that has kind of given me that vision of just walking alongside people, navigating with people, whatever life brings them. And those students went through a lot of different things, and everybody that I've encountered is also going through a lot of things as well. And I think that is the calling, is to walk alongside people. And that has looked different throughout my career in different things. I've been a teacher, I've been a coach, and I've been in the dorm, a guidance counselor, youth pastor, different things. And so the role has looked slightly different in those, and the title has been slightly different as well from time to time. But I really think the heart of the job description all along, and the thing that I have really been called to, and that gets me most excited and passionate, is walking through life with people and just saying, hey, these are the ups, these are the downs, we're going to go through it together. And I'm going to walk with you, cry with you, laugh with you, celebrate with you, and mourn with you as well. And I think I really got to experience that in a unique way in the dorm. And I think that calling and that proximity has carried on with me, and God has continued to develop me in that way as well, in knowing how to do that.
Amen. Thank you, Tommy. And I can truly say that we see you as an encourager to many people, especially in our youth ministry, and thank you for that. Now, Tommy will be available this evening after the service in the foyer. I would like to invite you to talk to Tommy if you've got any other questions. And obviously, we cannot cover all 12 questions we did during that hour interview, but talk to him. He's here so that you can meet him, you can greet him, you can ask him the tough questions. He will be here for the next couple of Sundays, so please use the opportunity to talk to Tommy after the service. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you. To communicate in something that I had intended on saying, but I just forgot to. One of the things that has been really interesting and part of the fun journey is that shortly after coming here to Geneva about 6 years ago, people started saying to me, very randomly, I thought so, when are you going to become a pastor? When is that going to happen? And it was kind of easy to ignore the first 2 or 3 people that said it. But then more and more people started asking and started talking about it. And so it was something that Megan and I started praying more about and thinking about more and taking more seriously. And so as a result of that, about 4 years ago, I started my Master's of Divinity, and I will finish in about 4 weeks, which I'm really excited about. I'm in my final class. I have 4 weeks left of that. But yeah, it's been a fun and interesting journey because it's not something that I always thought about. But just enough people said things along the way, and just listening to the input of other people, kind of God was like, "Hey, you gonna wake up and hear me here because I keep saying this to you." So it's been part of the journey in being here. So yeah, I apologize about not saying that earlier.